Welcome back. Dead Ball Dancing. It is November 15th. We are into week 3 of the damn season already. November is practically behind us. We're going to be talking about conference games real soon. Justin, how you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. How are you? It's been a wild past week here in NCAA men's basketball land. Well, obviously, you could see here on the top 25, right? Ton of changes going on that we'll get into, but there's been some interesting basketball, I want to say. Not necessarily bad, not necessarily good, just very interesting. But how are you, man?
Doing pretty good. I haven't gotten to watch as many games in real time
Yeah.
as I wanted to. There's been some, I go back and catch all the real big ones, but there's some of those collar conferences that I really like to watch live because the game flow or the
Yeah.
recap doesn't really capture the essence of it. And really,
Yeah.
when you're talking about those mid majors, it matters. It matters a lot what they're doing between players, what they're doing away from the scoring. I love the small gyms where they have essentially like an all 22 camera and I can see the court end to end. Cause like that's what matters for these mid
Yep.
majors at the end of the
Mhm.
year is like, okay, is your fifth man dogging it every third possession because he's exhausted? Because that's not going to fly come conference play. You're going to get your ass beaten. So that's kind of the stuff I look for. And I
Yeah.
haven't done as much of that this year. So that's my goal here in the next 2 weeks is
Yeah.
give me some mid majors
Yep.
with a camera that's mounted to the top of the bleachers. Those are the games I want to watch. Those are the ones I
Four
want to
people
see.
in the
And
crowd. Yeah. 17
yeah,
people in attendance. Yeah.
and we don't release our full rankings, at least not currently, but
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
really where stuff will start to move for me between
Yep.
like 120 and 80. And
Yep.
those are those last teams in. So
Yeah.
those are the ones I'm excited to look for. And those are really where I've kind of made my bread and butter,
And
both
I
betting and
finally
analysis.
mostly betting though, right? I finally started adjusting anywhere from 40 to 120 this week, which is why I think you're going to start to see, Illinois is in, Gonzaga's in, UNC, Georgia, all of those are new teams. And honestly, folks, that's because I had them ranked somewhere ridiculous last year, like from like 50 to 170 because they weren't playing very well. And I finally kind of focused a little more on that range in the rankings, which and kind of weighted them more fairly. Which is why you're probably seeing him in our top 25 because Rick had him in there, and I just did not. So, yeah,
Yeah, I did, however, rebalance some of my top 40 teams. So I have some
yeah, me
swings
too.
and I have a couple spots where you and I differ pretty greatly
Yeah, yeah,
on
yeah.
specifics. So we could get into those specifics, but I did rebalance
Yep.
my rankings kind of more to where I thought they belong. I was looking at my rankings specifically, and it just didn't tie in with what I was thinking about the season. So I moved some teams around. You can see there's some drastic moves again here in the top 25 for week 3,
Yeah.
but I think it'll help normalize some of my stuff a little bit more. My new rankings is more reflective of how I'm currently feeling,
Yeah, makes sense.
um, and not gonna let the games kind of lead it a little bit more. We don't
And
want to be the AP poll.
and we knew that was going to happen, right? We touched on it last week. Week 3, there's going to be some upsets. There's going to be some good teams that look like shit, and you and I vowed to kind of make sure that we're reflecting those changes week over week. So it's gonna be volatile. Like for the people that are watching and track our top 25s, like our top 25 is going to swing pretty crazily. It'll probably kind of normalize itself right middle of non-con schedule, and then when conference schedule hits again, you're going to start to get these upsets where like a Northwestern beats a Michigan, and all of a sudden Michigan might drop out of our top 25 and it completely, right? So it'll stabilize here in the coming weeks, and then once we get to conference schedule, it'll be a bloodbath again. But I just wanted to shout out some good basketball. Obviously Purdue Bama was a great game. Arizona UCLA was a good game. Michigan State Arkansas. We had Texas Tech versus Illinois, which, as you could see here, for Illinois at 11, huge win for them. But I just wanted to start off with a good conversation with you, and I'm particularly interested in your Kentucky at 2 and Louisville at 7. I'm really interested in that because I thought that Louisville looked astounding, and I'm going to get into Louisville a little bit later. But give me some of your thoughts on Kentucky at 2 and Louisville at 7.
Yeah, and when I did it and when I spit it out and when I saw what it did to the aggregate rankings, I knew we were going to have a conversation
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
All right, let me make the layman's argument, and then I'll get into mine. Layman's argument is like, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? Like, doesn't really matter. It's going to sort itself out.
Yep.
Louisville at 5, Kentucky at 7.
Yep.
Whatever,
Right.
But what I'm seeing from Kentucky, they're winning games, right? And this is
Yeah.
something that's going to be a common thread through a lot of my analysis today.
Yep.
What matters? What's the only stat that matters?
Dubs. You're right. It's dubs. Yeah.
That's it, right? So that's something that's going to continue to be a through line for me. But what I'm seeing from Kentucky in coasting going away wins over Nichols, who's Nichols, right? Valpo, who's god awful, okay? And then a game against Louisville where Louisville controlled the pace from the very beginning of the game. And there's two ways to look at that, right? Either one, and this would probably be your argument, Louisville imposed their will, right? They played their type of basketball. They did what they wanted to do, and Kentucky was unable to acclimate to it.
Yep.
I'm going to take a different side to a similar argument there.
Of course.
They beat Eastern Illinois 99-53 yesterday. That is more Kentucky. Eastern Illinois is not Louisville. I get it, right? But we look at that Louisville game, and what I'm seeing live and what I'm seeing box score and what I'm seeing in the minutes, Louisville got up. Kentucky eventually gave up. Not exactly what I want to see from a team, but with what we're seeing from Florida, Kentucky is now my pick to win the SEC.
Don't mind that.
And
I do not mind that at all.
Because of that, because of the way I think they match up against the SEC, yes, huge win for Louisville. They get that monkey off their back. Kentucky's kind of had their number in perpetuity, really. So I don't want to take anything away from Louisville, but I do want to be very careful with what I do with my Kentucky rankings, because if we think Louisville is really good, and if you can buy into my narrative about Louisville blowing them off the ball and then Kentucky kind of coasting, but still almost coming back, obviously an 8-point loss, but the way that game was flowing at the end, as soon as Kentucky was back in striking distance, it felt like they believed in it again. And they started scoring kind of at will. So for me, the discrepancy in my rankings is really that. I think Kentucky is the better team. I think Kentucky is a top 5 team in the country. I have Louisville at 7. And part of the jump with Louisville is they beat Kentucky in a very convincing manner.
Yep.
So I don't necessarily want to take anything away from Louisville, but I think if you play that game another 6 times, Kentucky wins more times than Louisville does. So that's kind of the argument for my rankings. I am willing to be wrong, but I think when I look 5 weeks forward, I think I have Kentucky ahead of Louisville. So to move them back in the short term felt like not the right move for me.
Yeah, and I don't mind that. I'm not disrespecting Kentucky too bad. I have them at 11. I think last week I had them at like 5. So essentially, I just switched Kentucky and Louisville in my rankings, which I think you and I are both seeing here as they're reflected at 5. I'm not going to ask my second question. I'm going to jump into my first topic then, if you don't mind, since we just touched on Louisville. And we talked about the ACC in our superlatives episode, and you so rightly called out, are we going to see a resurgent ACC this year? And I'm going to go ahead and say absolutely, right? And we'll get into some unnoticed teams here lately, but what a great week for the ACC. Duke and Louisville specifically taking care of business. We'll get into Wake here in a little bit, but I think that Louisville might legitimately go undefeated in their non-conference gauntlet and have the potential to go ahead and take the ACC from Duke. I think they'll drop a game or two to Duke, but when you look at the ACC, Louisville is better than every team in that conference, with maybe the exception of Duke. And I'm still not sure on a neutral court if Duke beats this Louisville team. The reason why I wanted to start off our conversation with why do you have Kentucky at 2? Your justification makes perfect sense. Is Louisville beat them by 8, and in my eyes, they played like shit, right? Like, they shot the ball horrifically. They were sub 50%. I think they were like 44%, 32% from 3, and they shot 40 attempts. and they still won by 8. And you go back and you look why, right? It's their aggression on both the rebounding side of the basketball and on defense. And for me, when we think about how Florida won last year, yeah, okay, Walter Clayton paled them out many a times, but it was their defensive pedigree that helped them close out close games, like a 65-63 game against Houston in the NCAA tournament. So when I look at Louisville's defense, they forced 14 turnovers to their 6 and only allowed 14 assists to their 20. And they got downhill and they got to the basket against a UK team that is essentially known for shooting a lot of free throws. They limited them to 16 free throw attempts to their 31, right? So
they played really clean.
They played really, really clean basketball. So if you're able to go against a consensus top 10 team in Kentucky, whether it's AP, Ken Palmer, us, right? Essentially look like shit on the offensive side of the ball from a shooting perspective and still win by 8. To me, that screams a well put together and well coached team that has a chance to make a deep run. So that's the reason why I was kind of valuing Louisville a little bit higher than Kentucky, is because they couldn't throw a rock into the ocean and still found a way to get it done. You know what I mean? Where it seemed like, to your point, Kentucky kind of took that lackadaisical effort a little bit. They stopped trying a little bit, whereas Louisville was like, we're not shooting well. We got to find another way to win. So I was really impressed with the way they played basketball. And, if they keep up this type of effort, they're quickly going to become my favorite to win the ACC conference, like based on what I'm seeing. So yeah, I think good start to our talk today for sure.
So I want to challenge the Louisville thing just briefly, but I'm gonna temper it, because I'm gonna ask you to suspend disbelief a little bit later, really soon, actually. So yes, Louisville can absolutely run the table in their non-con,
I think so.
But we are gonna know who this Louisville team is, right? They play at Arkansas.
Yep.
They play at an Indiana team that is not as bad as people think it is.
Correct.
Home Memphis, and then at Tennessee. So yes, but right. I want to temper just a little bit. If they go undefeated there, this is our number 1 team.
Agreed. Question for you though, right? Like, out of the teams that they have to play remaining in their non-con, which again, very impressive. They scheduled well. Would you say Kentucky's the best team that they're going to face out of that stretch?
Yes, with the caveat that we like Arkansas a lot.
We do. Both you and I like Arkansas a lot, right? But so my thing is, as teams gel and they get their feet under them post week 3, my expectation is they're well coached, so they're going to shoot better. So what does a more efficient on the offensive side of the ball Louisville look like with the same defensive intensity that they just exhibited versus Kentucky versus worse teams?
Yep. Well, and it's Little Sisters of the Poor. 4 games, so they'll be tuned up.
Right, exactly.
I want to stay in the ACC.
Let's do it.
We both have North Carolina in our top 25.
We do.
This is a blue blood podcast. Everyone knows that.
Yep.
I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked to see North Carolina out of our top 25 next week.
Yeah, I can
with
see that.
Poor pacing against a really, really bad Navy team. North Carolina has won the games they're supposed to win. They've looked okay.
Beat Kentucky.
I think without our bias floating them up, like the AP does, I think if they come out flat against Navy, I'm plunging this team down.
Great.
And part of the reason for that is because I'm plunging Kansas.
I am too.
So here's why I want you to suspend disbelief for just a moment. There is a world, there is a scenario, there is an outcome, a thread in the universe where Kansas loses to Princeton, Duke, Notre Dame, and Syracuse, and enters December 2-4 with Mizzou, UConn, and NC State on deck going into conference play.
It's possible. NC State's good. NC State's good this year, so it's possible.
A 2-4 Kansas team is probably 25 in the AP poll.
Probably, right. So I mean, that's the thing is, so what we're saying is UNC is pretty much at risk, because I don't know who they have after after Navy. I'm trying to pull their schedule up really quick. I'm surprised you or I didn't put them on notice either.
I didn't think it was worth it. I mean,
Yeah,
that's why I'm calling them out here, because they did make it
Yeah.
into our top 25.
Yeah, and their best win is
So
Kansas, who is gonna pretty much stumble
yeah, I
through the
mean,
rest.
NC
Yeah.
Central, like they don't play anybody early other than like
Yeah.
their big scheduled, right?
Yeah.
Like like the Bonnies could beat them, Michigan State could beat them. I guess they
And
do
then
have a stretch here. Michigan State, Kentucky. That's got to be a Thanksgiving tournament.
Yeah. Michigan State, Kentucky. I mean, they have Ohio State on the 20th too. That's not necessarily going to be a pushover. And then they start ACC play, and SMU's their second game. That's a trap game. So I'm curious to see how this team performs. You and I have been down on Kansas pretty much since the start of last year. So if North Carolina's best win is going to be a Kansas team that has a chance, to your point, to pretty much stumble all the way till conference play, I
Can I
completely
get some
agree.
rock chalk in the chat?
No, we're not doing rock chalk in the chat. No one likes Kansas. People from Kansas don't even like Kansas. And that's going to bring me to, I'm going to skip down to one of my topics, and I think it's time to have that discussion about the Big 12. We very, very lightly touched on it at the beginning of our superlatives episode, and we said there's really 3 teams, 4 teams, and the rest of the Big 12 is pretty much ass. Given that Tech looks like garbage, you and I both agree that they're still going to be in our top 25 probably through the rest of the year, but they don't look as good as they did last year. It's between Arizona and Houston, in my opinion, for the Big 12. And then the only other 3 teams I think that matter at all are a very resurgent Iowa State that is proving to have fixed a lot of the holes that they have last year. And then BYU and West Virginia, in my opinion, because you look across the board, Tech looks like crap. Kansas lost to UNC by 13, and the remainder of the teams are beating like Georgia State and Washington by like 5 points and like 10 points. And then you compare that to the SEC, where the top teams are going out and blowing out teams by 40 like they should. And I'm ready to have a conversation that even though there are 2 Big 12 teams in our top 5, those will be, and I remember saying this in our superlatives, those will be the only 2 Big 12 teams that remain in our top 25 by year end. I guarantee it, because the conference just isn't what it was anymore. You see Baylor dropping 4 spots. You have Texas Tech dropping 7. The only other one that went up was Arizona and Iowa State, because they're the 2 teams that are exhibiting the best effort. So I'm concerned about the conference as a whole, right? Because you start thinking about future of conferences, right? And the Big 12 is not very good at football, and technically that leaves it to be a basketball conference. And if the basketball of the Big 12 sucks, you're going to start having teams leave. I guarantee it. So keep an eye on Big 12 teams through the rest of the year. Obviously, big one coming up this week that we'll talk about later. But the Giants that were the Giants last year, the Techs, the Kansases, are the Giants no more. So I'm very concerned, very, very concerned.
Without getting too crazy about BYU, because I know it bothers Mike, and we're going to talk about them later.
Yeah,
I think this entire conference pivots on BYU. If BYU is good all year, they're going to put 5 or 6 teams into the tournament on pedigree.
Yep, I
if
agree.
BYU is bad, they're going to suck quadrant 1 wins out of this conference.
That's so smart.
You might get like 3 or 4 in. And it might not sound like many, but in a field of 68, there's between 4 teams and 6 teams from a revenue standpoint is massive. And I think everything hinges on BYU. They need to play well for the Big 12 to be relevant. They don't need to win the conference, but they need to win most of their games. They need to win this weekend.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. I don't want to jump the gun.
Let's shit on a different team. St. John's. St. John's, I think, is awful.
Yeah, I agree.
I know that's crazy to say, but if you look back at last year for them, sure, they played well, but when it came tournament time, they fizzled out. They felt more like a Cinderella and then fizzled out. And I don't know that I can believe that they're good. when they got ran off the court by the same kind of caliber of team that completely took them apart in the tournament.
Great.
If every time St. John's has to play a real basketball team, this is what happens. It doesn't matter how efficient they are. It doesn't matter how good they are. The Big East is the Big East, right? It's a basketball powerhouse. Let's combine with the ACC and make a super conference, yada, yada bullshit, right?
Yep.
The Big East is top heavy.
Yeah,
and if St. John's can't win real games against real teams, why do we think they're good? They're very similar feeling to me as last year's team. They're not doing anything wrong. They're just not at the same level as these elite level teams. They're not an SEC school. They're not a Big Ten school. They're, up until last year, they're a bottom half Big East team.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think it's fine for St. John's to be a top half Big East team.
Yep.
But I'll take this one. I had them up a little high, and so does the national media, just because of how they talk about coaches and shit. But this St. John's team isn't for real. This St. John's team is not a top 10 team. The St. John's team is not a championship contender. They're a tournament team for sure.
Yep.
They're not a championship contender.
Yeah, and we talked about St. John's. Like, I mean, to be honest with you, you called it out rightfully so. I had them at 5. I dropped them to 15 in mine. You have them at 25, which is why we see them sitting at 19 now. Yeah, definitely concerned because one of the main keys that they needed to fix was the offensive side of the ball. You know, I have faith in their defense, though, letting up 103 points to Bama. Man, did I get that fucking wrong. Their transfers needed to perform, and they're not. Sannon, 7 points. Isaiah Sellers, 14 points. It's not going to get it done. And especially if your defense fails against these powerhouse teams like a Bama, you need to score the ball and close it out that way. And you didn't, right? You only outscored Bama by 2 in the second half while getting outscored by 9 in the first. So didn't close the game out. And, you know, when we look at what they have upcoming, again, I'm trying not to get too high on teams that I was last year, but you and I can both agree that Iowa State looks strong. And if this St. John's team plays this Iowa State team, I'm not sure that St. John's wins that game. It's at Iowa. That's coming up on November 24th. Definitely concerned. And, you know, if they go into that game and look flat like they did against Bama, there's a chance that they fall out completely of my top 25. So I would not be surprised to see that happen.
Well, and I think that our aggregate rankings are doing a really, really nice. I think that's a neutral site, but I think our aggregate rankings are doing a really, really good job of capturing just kind of the general vibe of the show and the movement, right? So, I mean, outside of Louisville jumping 10 spots, right, and St. John's dumping 10 spots, I think the rankings are right.
Yeah.
I think that mixing my pessimism and your optimism gets us kind of right where we need to be for a real top 25. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see. Yeah, this that whole thing's in Vegas, by the way.
Oh, it is. Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
why was it?
St. John's, Iowa State,
yeah,
Creighton, and somebody. I can't remember who the fourth team is. That's a MTE. That's an exemption tournament.
Yeah, is that at like that's just one of those like Thanksgiving tournaments? Sorry, I had to let my cat out.
Yep.
One of those Thanksgiving tournaments they have where they invite like a ton of top 25 teams, and then
I can't remember who the last team in that set is.
Yeah.
Baylor. It's Baylor.
Baylor's about to be outside the top 25 here pretty shortly. So
yeah, well, Creighton could play their way into it.
Yeah, so let's not get into Creighton after what they looked like against. I believe it was like Gonzaga or something. But don't get me started on Gonzaga.
Should we address the elephant in the room here?
Go ahead. Which one? I have several.
Oh, you got several elephants. I want to talk about Purdue.
Good. Yeah. Good.
I want to talk about Purdue. This Purdue team is playing really, really poorly. And again, what's the stat that matters? Wins. They've won all their games.
In Bama,
by the way.
In Bama.
Outside of 3-point shooting and like general ball movement, this Purdue team looks bad. And what concerns me coming into meaningful games and then in the conference play is there's not like new pieces. I understand they turn over some roster, right? But this is mostly the same Purdue team, the same structure.
Fair.
So what is wrong? What is wrong? Is this regression from overachievement last year? Is this lack of discipline this season? It's certainly not playing good teams. Obviously the Bama win's big, but I mean they played Evansville real tight.
Mm-hmm.
So
and Oakland.
Yeah, and so I'm concerned about Purdue if this is real. And I'm not convinced that it is. But if this version of Purdue goes into the Big Ten schedule, they won't be able to grind out Rutgers. They won't be able to grind out Penn State. Like, there's a drastic step up from Evansville or Indiana State Sycamores, right, to the bottom of the Big Ten. So it's buoyed by a really impressive win over Alabama. Fact. But even with the Alabama game, their statistical sets don't convince me there's not something wrong here. So you're way, way closer to this program than I am. Talk me off a cliff with Purdue. Is this real, or are they going to fix this in time for Big Ten?
Yeah, it's kind of the same trend that we'll get into with another Big Ten team here as one of my topics that I want to discuss, but it feels like they always come out flat-footed. And I don't know if it's because they don't have the rigor in their off-season training. I don't want to call it regression because Matt Painter seems to be able to have them figuring it out going into Big Ten play. For me, it's a little bit of sloppiness on the offensive side of the basketball and regression on the defensive side of the basketball. We weren't top 50 defense last year, I think, but we were at least top like 75. And this year, it doesn't feel like that's the case until we played Alabama, right? Like, we held Alabama, who just put up 103 on St. John's, who is a far better defensive team than us, to 80. So to me, it feels like though the Oakland and Evansville game, we looked like shit, and we looked pretty much like Northwestern or Washington can beat us. Performing against the top 10 teams is what matters to me, and as long as we show a trend upwards, not on the offensive side of the basketball, but on the defensive side of the basketball, I think there's not a lot of cause for concern there. Obviously, if you have a player like Braden Smith who puts up 29, 7, and 5 against a top 10 team, that's going to cover a lot of holes. And I think he did that last year too, Rick. So I think eventually we're going to start going against some of these good non-con teams, and I think we're going to stumble a little bit in Big Ten because Braden can only do so much. But when it comes tournament time and it comes Big Ten and March Madness time, I think Painter will have them figured it out on the defensive side of the basketball, because I agree they're not looking very sharp right now. So yes and no. I want to say yes, it's cause for concern, and yes, you should be putting them on notice. But no, because of how they performed against Bama, I want to say, if that makes sense.
I only have one more top 25 topic. I know you got a couple more you want to touch on.
Just two. Yeah.
We just need to call out, because we haven't mentioned them yet. We're 29 minutes into this, and we haven't mentioned the best team in the country, Loyola Marymount, the only 5-0 team in the country, doing some work out there.
We got 5 games already.
Yeah, and West Coast Conference, don't sleep on them. They're going to put at least one team into the tournament. But hey, no matter who you're playing, 5-0 is 5-0. So just want to give a little tip of the cap, only a little bit tongue in cheek on that one. But
God damn, they put up
5-0.
They almost won by 100 against Lincoln, California.
Yeah, I think that's a school for the blind, though.
Yeah, that's like a Division II team, like how Florida's been playing. And speaking of Florida, so do we know what's going on? Like, I know we talked about them kind of a little bit last week, given the way that Arizona looked, right? And I know you touched on it too. Kentucky, I think, is a great pick for SEC champion, and I'm gonna go with Bama. because even though they lost by 10 to Purdue, they look real good. And I like the way that Bama's playing on both sides of the ball. Yeah, go ahead.
So does that mean we need to be worried about Tennessee? Do we not believe in Tennessee?
I don't. Did I have their schedule? Yeah, I have their schedule pulled up. They've played Mercer, Northern Kentucky, and Northern
Mercer
Florida.
Gave them a scare.
And Mercer gave them a scare. You have Rice, Tennessee State, Rutgers, and then Houston. They are not playing anybody even remotely the same realm as Houston. And then they're going from playing those teams to Houston back to back. I don't believe in them at all. You know, they graduated too many people last year, Rick. They're not as good as on the defensive side of the ball. You know, they were a top 3 defense behind, what was it, St. John's and Houston last year. I haven't looked at their rankings. I guarantee you that they're nowhere near the same realm. They're 303rd in turnover margin. They're 231 in turnovers forced. They turn the ball over 300th worst in the country. Like, no, I don't believe them because they looked like crap last year towards the end of the year, right? They underperformed expectations in March Madness. Then they graduated everybody, and they don't have a top recruiting class or transfer class. So, in my opinion, Tennessee is not the pick. What about you?
Yeah, I'm worried about them in general.
Yeah.
Obviously, the SEC is going to be tough.
Yep.
So, Florida, there's something going on. Tennessee, there's something going on, and I to see it manifest so early is really concerning when the SEC is so good.
Yeah.
And I know you can look at our top 25 here, right? And they're not sitting in the top 5 anymore, but they're all in here. Right? They are all sitting here in the top 25. The teams we're worried about in the SEC are still tournament teams.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
Any one of them, I think we can both craft a pretty compelling argument for why Kentucky could drop, why Tennessee could drop, why Bama could drop, right? Like,
yep.
Mizzou. There's enough concern top to bottom, and it's the quadrant 1 thing again, right? The reason the SEC put so many damn teams in is because they were awesome last year.
Yeah, incredible.
And it only takes 1 or 2 dominoes to disrupt that.
Right.
And you know, I hate even talking about the damn AP poll. I feel like I do it 3-4 times a show.
You have to, though. It's
and it does matter, right? I mean, Tennessee is number 20, Florida's number 10, right? So I mean, like, it matters in the way the public perceives these teams. It matters in the way that the people who are doing final tournament rankings perceive these teams, because it doesn't matter about statistics, right? Oh, Tennessee was number 20 in the country for 8 weeks. Okay, well then a 20-win Tennessee is a 4 line. You know, like, it doesn't matter how many other games they lose. But
it does at the end of the day, though, Rick. I would argue that it doesn't matter because the AP is subjective completely based on how the fans and the coaches and the media perceives the team. You nailed it. But at the end of the day, when it comes March Madness tournament time, what happens? It turns objective. It turns into your strength of your schedule, your quad 1, right? Your quad 1 wins.
They've done a better job. They've done a better job.
I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, granted, of course, you know, there's some bullshit like they pulled last year where North Carolina got in over SMU, Wake, and a few other teams that deserved it well more than them. They're still kind of figuring it out. But you know, yeah, Tennessee will be a tournament team. But for me, like, my problem is, like, if Florida keeps this up and they don't figure out their shooting and their fouls, which FSU had 25 free throw attempts against them, like, they're going to finish middle of the pack in the SEC because there's teams that are sneaking up Georgia at our 24 spot, right? Vanderbilt's not bad anymore. That will reach out and snag a win against Florida if they come out flat-footed. And what I don't understand is, okay, Fland finally played to his potential, 18-5-1 versus Florida State, but they only got bailed out by this, apparently the best player in the country, who is Thomas Hall, who's averaging like 30 something a game. And like the only person that's keeping them halfway relevant because they're shooting 19% from 3-point range this year. on an average of like 25 attempts.
Yeah,
like you don't have Clayton anymore, right? Like you don't have the team you have last year, and they out rebounded Florida State by 22, and they only won by 2 points. Like this team does not feel well put together, like they did last year, and I'm highly concerned because I don't have their non-con schedule. I'm going to pull it up super fast because you're going to get into an SEC schedule and you are going to struggle. Like your first 2 games in the SEC are Mizzou and Georgia. Like, okay, I'll give you a win over Georgia. This Florida team that we've been seeing does not beat Missouri at all.
Well, and like, yeah, the non-con isn't easy either.
You have UConn on the 9th, Duke on the 6th.
Duke. Like, yeah, I'm concerned.
Yep.
I mean, hell, even tomorrow, like if they don't look good against Miami, like starts to craft this narrative, and we're at risk a little bit.
But. Yeah, we're at risk. And then the last one that I want to talk about in our top 25, and it is a team that did come in this week for us, is Illinois. You have them at 4. I'm gonna give you time to back that up, but and I promise I wasn't doing this on purpose, but what I want to call out is we have to make sure to not fall prey to the Illinois scam. Harsh words. They are a good team. They are a good team. But my concern is, even though I moved them up to 20, they did this exact same thing last year. And, they were number 1 in rebounding, number 10 in points, number 45 in 3-point made, number 22 in free throw made. And you're like, holy crap. This team should be the best team in the entire nation, right? They lost in the second round of the Big Ten tourney and the second round of the NCAA tourney. Why? And that's because they ended the year 260 in scoring defense, 331 in turnover margin, 348 in turnovers forced, and 173rd in turnovers committed out of, by the way, 355 teams. I don't want to throw a bunch of stats. I just want to talk about trends, right, Rick? They have this thing where every year it's like, is this the best version of the Illinois team that we've ever seen in our lives, even though, Darren Williams played there and stuff like that, D Brown. And then the second half of the year, they look like shit. So I just want to caution us. I don't know if it's off-season training. I don't know if it's coaching. We just need to be careful how high we value Illinois, because I'm concerned when we get into Big Ten play, when you got teams that are better this year, like a UCLA, USC, Washington, Michigan State, Purdue. They got to keep their foot on the gas. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about the same thing they did last year. I'm just warning.
And part of why I have them ranked where I do is because I think they're improved defensively year over year. And they are one of the few Big Ten teams that is capable of overcoming the Big Ten style of play we talk about so much.
Fair.
They can boat race a team on offense. Doesn't mean they will. Doesn't mean that translates into wins necessarily.
Right.
But when we talk about that grinding, slow defensive slog, efficient offense kind of style of Big Ten play, there's only a couple teams in the Big Ten that could be like, nah, fuck that, shoot the lights out, win a game going away. Illinois is one of them.
It's like Illinois, Purdue, Wisconsin,
and New Wisconsin, baby. Wisconsin.
And then like maybe Michigan, who we'll get into later.
Yeah, Rutgers last year could do it. But it's highly contextual, right? Because if you're up against one of those elite defenses, nobody's doing it. But like you get caught in a slog against Minnesota, everybody can slow down, right? Like Purdue, right? It was a top 5 team, right? They could get caught in a slog against Minnesota, and it's 56-48. It's some gross game like that. And I feel like Illinois is one of the only teams that's immune to that.
Yeah, it could be.
They'll hit 9 threes in a row and get hot and then break out of that grind. I think they lose more than 50% of their grind games, which is a problem for them defensively. But when I look at this Illinois team, I think they're better on defense than we've seen. And I think kind of the floor for this Illinois team is a 6 seed. Right? So that's top 25. That's a top 25 team. And I'm looking at they end last year 40th in defense for Ken Pom. And part of it's that drop off. They were playing really, really well.
Correct.
And then drop off at the end, right? So as we're sitting here, where does Illinois end the year for me? And to be fair, it is not a one line, right? It's not. But I think it's not a 6. I think this Illinois team can play well enough in the Big Ten and in their non-con with an improved defense and a tournament style offense that I think this Illinois team has to be taken more seriously than the one from last year and ones in recent past.
I don't mind it. I have them at what did I say I have them, Rick? I have them at I'm disrespecting them a little bit. I put them at 20.
I mean, their ball handling's awful. They're 213th in assists, and they're 351st in steals. Like, they have issues, and they're going to compound.
Assists,
yeah, when they compound, right? Like,
yep. And I guess what's surprising is you're right. Like, I remember last year they did break away in some of those games because of their shooting, because of their 3-pointers, right? Like, I think, what did I say? They ended 45th in 3-point made last year. 45th, which is incredible. But what I'm finding is interesting this year, and this could be a good thing, right? Is they are 353rd in fast break points. And that could be because they're slowing down and they're taking smarter shots and they're playing better offense. I haven't watched an Illinois game, honestly. I just know they have a big win over Tech, which is why I put them at 20, honestly. So now that I know that, I'm actually going to tune in. When is their next game? Do you know?
Yeah, I do, because it's Wednesday night against Alabama. Right?
Like,
we're going to find out.
Like, that's one of those games where 353rd in the nation out of 355, by the way, in fast break points won't win you that game. That will not win you that game, because Alabama is going to sprint up and down the court and tire you out so fast that if you don't do the same thing to them, you're going to lose by 40. So I'm going to that is arguably a game of the week candidate. Holy shit, I didn't even realize. That's a really good one.
Well, and I want to remind everyone, our viewers, like, this Illinois team beat a really, really good Arkansas going away last year, right? Turned it around and lost to Northwestern. Blew the doors off a really good Wisconsin team. Lost to Tennessee. Beat Missouri tight. Blew out Oregon. I mean, this is Illinois. It's up and down and up and down and up and down. And I think
Washington
the difference with
they lost to USC.
This year's team is, if they can find their consistency, the pieces are all there. The defense is a top 50 defense. The offense can be a top 10 scoring offense. If they can find their consistency as a through line, this schedule plays out in a way where if they win these games, right, in the next 3 weeks, you have Bama, UConn, Tennessee, Ohio State, Mizzou. If you can find your through line, Illinois is a national top 5 team by Christmas. But they have to find that through line. They have to win all of these games. But if you take any single one of these games in a vacuum, you can't tell me Illinois doesn't have a chance to win. Is it likely? Probably not. They can beat Bama. If their shooting shows up and their defense plays to what their top level is, they beat Bama. If their defense plays halfway decent and they get in a boat race with UConn, their perimeter shooting can probably get the job done. Unlikely, right? We just talked about Tennessee and some of their struggles. If Illinois puts together one of their streaks, which they do every year, and it happens to be right now, this is a top 5 Illinois team by Christmas.
Yeah, I think I'm with you until UConn. Like,
it's unlikely.
I hate UConn more than anything, especially the coach. But I like Tennessee, yes. Ohio State, yes. Nebraska, yes. There's 3 in a row. Missouri's pretty damn good. We'll see. I'll give them a win there. And then they Southern U. Okay, there's 5 in a row. Penn State, Rutgers, 7 in a row. Iowa, like, yeah, you're not wrong. But you can't get discouraged if you lose by 40 to UConn. I'm gonna keep my eye on the UConn game, and I'm definitely watching that Bama game. So again, we're gonna get into on notice here, but just temper expectations on Illinois until they show us. If they show up against Bama, I'll start believing. That's that.
All right. So, audience, we are looking for feedback on this next one here. Justin hasn't seen this yet.
I've not.
So
I'm excited to see what it
if you
looks like.
watched our show last year, you know the board's a little different, the presentation's a little different. But if you're returning, you know we like to do on notice, where we call out a team, good or bad, and
look at
put them on notice.
What the fuck is that? Oh, that's VCU Ram. Oh, that's sick, dude. Wow. I like that a lot.
So
With the red and the green.
Notice. Yeah, green means good, red means bad. We're going to talk through these teams.
Yeah.
Just a way, usually teams that we just haven't really touched on in the top 25, teams that we really want to call out for doing one thing or another. So Justin, go ahead and take it away.
Love this a lot. And I got two teams on notice that played each other, but for separate reasons, right? Like, I'm going to start with Wake. I'm going to start with the positivity. So solid 2-1 start. We talked about a resurgent ACC. Keep your eye on Wake Forest, which I think you and I both called out during our superlatives episode. I don't normally. Let me take that back. Let me rephrase that. I was about to say I don't normally complain about the refereeing, but I swear that Wake Forest was deserved of the win over Michigan until they got robbed of it. Did you watch that game?
Yeah.
37 free throw attempts to 21 free throw attempts. Like,
I mean,
Wake, Wake needs to clean up the defensive side of the ball and learn how to defend without fouling. But 37 free throw attempts is diabolical. And I watched the game. 10 of those fouls or 10 of those free throws that were shot should have been removed.
It was ticky-tacky for sure, but that's Big Ten. That's Big Ten basketball, baby.
It is, it is. But it's, if you look at the way they played the rest of the game, they forced Michigan into 17 turnovers, 16% from 3-point on 25 attempts. Yeah, okay, they let up 85 points, but the defensive intensity was incredible to watch, and I personally think they got robbed. The one thing they need to clean up, and I think they will by the ACC regular season, is 35% from the field on 84 attempts. If they're going to succeed, they need to clean that up, because it's clear to me that on the defensive side of the ball, they have really good field goal and 3-point percentage defense. And if it wasn't the ticky-tacky BS that you and I don't like watching, right? We like watching good, intense games where you let them be physical. Wake Forest wins that game against Michigan. So very proud of the way that they played. Looking forward to see how they take the non-con into their ACC regular season.
Hawaii, I've been on since the preseason. I wrote them off too early, I think. They're playing without one of their major acquisitions. They're playing without their big man that transferred in.
Yep.
It doesn't seem to matter. I know Oregon sucks, but that's this team's only loss. They lost by 1, and it was on the mainland. Right? They had to travel for that one, and there wasn't a person in the world that wasn't laying. It was like 7.5 points at Oregon, something stupid. Hawaii is the second best team in Mountain West. Just full stop. They have a huge game for them against ASU. And the only reason it's a huge game for them is because of the name brand. We know ASU is garbage. But Hawaii comes to Arizona and wins that game, then they just pretty much have to run their Mountain West schedule. So if you like to stay up late, East Coasters for sure, you can do a lot worse than spending time watching Hawaii basketball. They're fast, they're fun, score a bunch of points. I have Hawaii as a tournament team.
And Isaac Johnson, 7 foot 240, out of American Fork, Utah. 15 points, 9 rebounds on 55% from the field. That is a big boy that is going to work. Get the ball down low. Go get a tough bucket. I like the team. He just had 25 and 11 versus Manhattan. They've won every game by like 40. I mean, they're not even.
They beat the tar out of the Jaspers, man.
Yeah,
That was an awesome
not
game.
even they're not even giving teams chances. Great call out. I love it. Okay, other side of the coin for me. I'm gonna go to Michigan, the team that Wake played. 1 point win versus Wake, and then you're like, okay, like you shouldn't have won that game. How are you gonna bounce back? 4 point win versus TCU. Both of those efforts, if they played Illinois, Purdue, Michigan State, UCLA, they would lose by 20. And it's not. I'm not concerned about their shooting. They're going to figure their shooting out. They're a well-coached team. They shoot the basketball well normally. It's the effort. The effort is what's lacking for me, and that's why I have them on notice, because if they don't clean up the intangibles in the defensive side of the ball, they're cooked. 216th in scoring defense, 309th in steals, 221st in three-point defense, which, again, we just talked about an Illinois team who could shoot the lights out, a Purdue team who could shoot the lights out. If you take that level of defense into a Big Ten where you're going to have to grind on the defensive side of the ball, you're in trouble. 262nd in turnovers forced and 315th in committed. If they don't get this figured out by Big Ten conference, I don't think they have a chance in hell to end in the top 4. And what's even more concerning is you would think that, okay, Michigan's going to schedule a really tough non-con, so even if they stumble a little bit, they'll get into Big Ten rolling. Middle Tennessee, San Diego State, Auburn, who, let's be honest, between you and I, they suck. Rutgers, Villanova, and then they get to Maryland. Then they take a break from Maryland and they go to LaSalle and McNeese. Those teams, with the exception of Maryland, Auburn, and maybe McNeese, are not going to give them the chance to tune up to the level they need in order to succeed in the Big Ten. I'm very concerned about Michigan, who was a consensus top 4 team for us going into the season. So heads up.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out. And
yeah,
we talk about how tough the Big Ten can be. So
yeah.
VCU was kind of a darling last year. It's a team we were on really early.
Yep.
Love the Rams. They lost like 75% of their offensive production in their minutes.
Yep.
The defense is still great. Defense is still top 30.
Oh yeah.
But the offense, there's a lot of freshmen. There's some new faces. They lost everything, right? I think they returned less than 20% of their scoring. VCU is already a streaky team.
Yep.
So they lost to Utah State, who I believe both have winning the Mountain West. But this team gets streaky. They played St. Pete's tighter than they should. They got NC State next, who we've talked about a couple times just on this show. A good Samford team, South Florida, and that's pretty much just the next 4 games here. So I have VCU on notice, not because they're playing poorly necessarily.
Yeah.
But they have the potential to dump a bunch of games here early, and that'll be it.
Yeah.
Obviously you win your conference and you're in. But that might be the only seat out of that conference. So if VCU gets streaky and cannot improve a little bit on offense, I don't know that the defense can carry them through the rest of this non-con. And the Bonnies are pretty damn good, and St. Louis got better, and Rhode Island got better, and St. Joe's got better. So Rams are on notice. They need to kind of figure out who's going to be the driving force from a scoring standpoint here. They're going to be in a lot of trouble soon.
Atlantic 10, right?
Yeah.
Atlantic 10. Yeah, so that's going to be a fun. It is every year. You and I talk about the A10, almost every single year. The A10 is going to be fun to watch this year because in the past, it was VCU's conference, right? And honestly, I'm still leaning towards it's VCU's conference, right? Technically, it's theirs to lose because of their pedigree. But to your point, every team in that conference has gotten better because I think people are starting to realize, okay, I'm not going to go to the SEC and be a 10th man. I'm going to go to A10 and be a freaking 6th or 5th. And all of a sudden, this A10 conference is turning into a pretty perennial powerhouse that not only do they put teams into the tournament, but those teams succeed. So great call out. And A10 is going to be
Sleep on
one
the
of
Bonnies.
that's what I mean, dude. Where do I have Bonaventure? I think I might have moved them down to right size them a little bit. But you know, Bonnies are going to be good this year again. VCU is going to be good. So keep an eye on the A10. Great call out, Rick.
All right, you ready?
Let's get into it. I'm gonna piss some people off. I am going to piss some people off.
Dead ball dancing, week 3, game of the week. UConn, BYU. UConn currently sitting 5.5. I think the Mormons woke up and started betting this line down a little bit. Over under 153.5. This is technically a neutral site game.
Is it?
This is at the Garden in Boston, though.
BYU at UConn. Okay, yeah.
Big storyline here. At least from the national media, this is kind of like a homecoming. Bunch of kids coming home to play in Boston. For me, this is a no-brainer for me.
Great.
And I can get into that. But the first thing that came to mind when I tried to approach this objectively is this is a system play. This is UConn doing what UConn does against an inferior team.
Yep.
Systems and veterans beat hype.
Yep.
This UConn team is built for one thing, and it's winning. And they're efficient as hell. And unlike BYU, they're efficient on both sides of the ball. So I'm a little concerned that this game could get out of hand, just because I think they have the capability to grind BYU to a complete stop. I'll pause there. Let's talk UConn. Justin, what do you have for game of the week here?
Yeah. Do you want me to read the first line that I have after UConn, or do you want to read it? In my notes.
I'll read it for
the
audience. Dear viewers, there is a chance that UConn wins this game by 20 points.
Yep. So when you open up and you see UConn at minus 5.5, that tells me that people are buying into the hype of BYU and not necessarily how objectively good UConn is. And that's coming from someone who is insanely biased against UConn, right? Like we've talked about it in superlatives. We talked about it last year. No matter how you spin it, UConn's offense is top 20 in the country, 25th in assists, 13th in field goal, 54th in 3-point percentage, backed. And I don't want to steal your thunder. I'm going to pass it right back to you. Backed by a defense that ranked 8th in scoring, 25th in field goal defense, and 36th in turnovers forced. I don't see this being close. I don't know why it's at 5.5. I truly don't understand betting like you do. So before I get into my keys for UConn, I'll pass it back to you to see if you have anything to add.
So this line is moving all over the place.
Figured.
This actually opened like 4.5 and it's sitting 6.5 live right now. So I don't want to be mean.
I don't either, but it's just reality.
This is this in our rankings even, right? I mean, this is an even-ish kind of game.
Ish.
But I think this really speaks toward what we were talking about earlier and like how the teams that are going to be there are there, right? They're up there already. We talked about the weakness of the Big 12. We talked about how BYU is kind of the keystone for the whole
anchor
thing.
Yeah.
UConn is UConn. This is the best team in the Big East. This is arguably the best team north of the Mason-Dixon line. I know Purdue's up there. For me, it's an efficiency play, right? This everything else aside, UConn has more ways to win this game.
They do. Yeah, they
than
do.
BYU does. And that's not to say that BYU can't win. And I mean, there's a really, really obvious way that BYU can win.
Yep.
But UConn has more permutations. There's more chances for UConn to win because they're better. They're better on offense. They're better on defense. They're better from a veteran leadership standpoint. The system is better. I think I can't overcome that. And from a betting standpoint, I think the reason this line's moving all over the place is because the value is there at 6.5. The value is there at 7.5. It's like you said, UConn could win this by 20. You got money in your pocket by the end of the first half because there is no scenario where BYU blows out UConn.
No.
There is a scenario where BYU beats UConn, but there is way more math, betting math, and basketball math that says that UConn wins this game. There are different ways that UConn can win this game. And I think that that's what's going to continue to play out throughout the season for UConn. But it starts right here. This is a big game, however you slice it.
Yeah.
And it's a massive game in the AP poll.
Yeah.
This
agreed.
is a colossal game for UConn because this is a top 10 opponent. So win this game and the rest of it starts to take care of itself from a media discussion standpoint. Lose this game, and you're in a lot of trouble.
Agreed.
You're in a lot of trouble with not a whole lot of opportunities to prove you belong in the elite level because you're in the Big East. We just spent 10 minutes shitting on St. John's earlier.
And
Creighton,
I think,
you laughed about Creighton when I told you they might be in the top 25, right?
Yeah.
So you have to win this game. And it means
Yeah.
less for BYU, I think, than it does for UConn because BYU play this game tight and you're pretty much who we thought you were. Right. You're who the nation thought you were.
You're going to stay right where you are in our rankings in the AP, and in Ken Palm too, because realistically, if you play UConn tight, it means you played a hell of a game around the corner, holistically. I think, for me, the keys for UConn is tenacity on the boards, spreading the wealth, and defending without fouling, which is going to be key, right? So they're 249th in offensive rebounds, BYU 56th in defensive rebounds. You got to make sure that you generate second chances against this team because you're not going to get it anywhere else. Spreading the wealth. Very surprising here. UConn's a top-heavy team, which is the opposite of what we've seen in the past where they've been relatively good coming off the bench. They're 231st in bench points per game year to date. And you're going to have to come off the bench and support the starters because BYU is going to force multiple people to play that may not normally play because they're going to tire you out. I will give BYU that credit. And, defending without fouling and getting downhill, UConn does rely on about a pretty efficient 18 free throws made per game to support their dynamic offense. BYU is number 1 in the country in committed fouls per game and number 13 in opponent free throws made per game at 7 made free throws a game. They're only allowing 7 made free throws a game. Do you know how absurd that is on the defensive side of the ball? Good on BYU. So they're going to have to focus on those 3 things, UConn will, if they're going to beat a pretty solid BYU team.
So I said there's a way that BYU can win.
Great.
And I believe that there is. But Dybantsa has to ball out.
He's got to have a Koa Pete versus Florida game.
Yes. I mean, so there's a lot of chatter, right? I don't like the NBA, but it's relevant to basketball chatter, right? This kid could be the number 1 pick.
Should be, right? I mean, they're already saying he's going to be. Yeah.
So play like an NBA player. This game. You haven't played anybody in your entire life. You've never played an NBA player. This UConn team has 7 NBA players.
Yep.
If you come out and score 40, right, play to your home crowd, do your thing, right, get in a groove. You're a freshman, right? You have to make up for a lack of experience with pure athletic talent. Well, he has it. He has pure athletic talent.
He does.
Blow the doors off starting early. UConn's defense, top tier. You can't guard a 30-foot shot, right? You can't really protect against height. If BYU gets hot, gets shooting threes, gets rolling downhill, their NBA kid goes off, BYU can win this by 5 or 6 points.
And
right? I think all out, like BYU firing on all cylinders, hitting everything, kid goes off. I think it's like a 4 to 6 point win for BYU. But it's a win. But it has to be that coming out party. If AJ doesn't ball out, there is no way that BYU is close in this game.
At all. And the problem is you're going to have to rely on your threes to win the game if you're BYU, which I'll get into in a second, and I'm not confident they're going to. Now, when you talk about Dybantsa, did I pronounce the name correctly? Dybantsa?
I believe it's Dybantsa. The T is silent,
oh,
and
gotcha.
I believe the Y is an E.
Dybantsa.
Willing to be wrong on that.
Yeah.
The T is silent for sure.
I'm gonna call him AJ. I'm gonna call him AJ. He has a similar build to Koa Pete. He feels hungry like Koa Pete. I like the kid. I like his focus. He's the exact opposite of an Ace Bailey, right? He comes in with all this hype, and he's performing like it. Right, like he wants to win, and he wants to. I'm just being honest, and he wants to win.
We're gonna drag those Rutgers kids till the end of time.
For the next 3 years, and he's proving through his play that he wants to win now. But it's the rest of the team that I'm worried about. You can have 40, Mr. Dybantsa, but it's the rest of your team and the imbalance there that has me concerned. So I'm just going to jump into it, and I'll pass back to you. So. They're patient and they're smart on offense. They're number 6 in the country in assist to turnover ratio. I love that. That's it. That's all that's it. 94th in field goal percentage, 239th in free throw attempts, 129th in point per game, 203rd in 3-point percentage, and 168th in 3-point made. Right? Who have they played? Give me a second. That is against teams like Villanova, Holy Cross, and Delaware, right? Like we're not playing the non-con schedule that Arkansas has, right? Like we're not playing the non-con schedule that some of these other teams that we've discussed have played yet. So if you're stumbling this bad against teams that you should be cooking against, you are going against arguably the favorite to win the national title, given how the rest of the country has looked. And that is not going to get it done. And my keys are very similar to what I just said for UConn, and that's spreading the wealth, showing defensive effort, and getting to the line. Let's talk about spreading the wealth. Dybantsa has to have 40 to win, but you have to have somebody else coming off the bench to support. Otherwise, you're not going to get it done. You have 3 guys that are averaging double-digit points, and they are 341st out of 355. In bench points per game. That's not going to get it done against a powerhouse that is going to make you work on the offensive and defensive side of the ball and make you go deep into your rotation. That is a very concerning trend and stat for me to look at, right? You have to make UConn uncomfortable on offense or it's game over. They are 314th in forced turnovers per game. And like I said, that's against Delaware and Little Sisters of the Poor. You have to leverage your number 1 ranked fouling defense, press them full court, make them go deep into their rotation as well. That is your only chance at getting a win, essentially at UConn, right? I do want to say BYU has the athleticism to make this game uncomfortable for UConn, right? UConn can get sloppy. They're 132nd in fouls committed and 173rd in opponent free throw attempted. Dybantsa's got to get downhill. He's got to get these guys in foul trouble. And if they can do that, there is a chance, Rick. But I'm going to make my prediction now. I'm going to go ahead and say that UConn wins this game by anywhere from 15 to 17 points. That's just the way that I feel. They feel more complete. And it feels like whether it turns into a offensive or defensive style game, UConn can win both ways. BYU can only win one. So I'm going to take UConn by double figures.
Well, if you follow the show so far, you know that I am a fantastic game of the week picker. It's been a rough couple here. So let's try to make it 0 for 3. I think I'm pretty much aligned with you. I'm pretty much dead on. I have them winning by 17 points.
Yep. Sweet.
I have this game 81-64
Sounds about right.
UConn. I like the under. I like the under in the first half. There's no way. I like UConn to shorten this game, take long possessions, be efficient with your scoring, and then just play a UConn defense on the other end, right? If you're burning the whole clock on one end and then making them take contested shots on the other end, this game's going to move. This game's going to move pretty quick. It's going to be relatively low scoring, like 145 points in the game. I think it'll be a letdown from a viewership standpoint. I don't think this is a fun one for people to watch. I think this is going to turn into a foul fest late.
When is this game?
If you take it's tonight, 5 o'clock our time, I think 7 o'clock.
Yep.
If you take this under, don't watch the last 5 minutes of the game. It's going to make you physically ill.
Yep.
This should be a slog, but UConn will do enough offensively in the first half to distance themselves from BYU, and then we'll build on a 7 to 8 point lead and add another 10 points to it at the end of the game when all we're doing is burning clock and shooting free throws. Give me UConn. Give me UConn the cover. Give me the under.
I just think it's too early in the season for BYU, right? Like we've talked about their youth. We've talked about good on them for scheduling tough non-con and getting themselves ready for Big 12. It feels like they're on the edge of being good. And what I'm concerned about is this game was scheduled too early in their non-con schedule and not later. If this was later and BYU was rolling, right? And BYU has a win against a phenomenal Wisconsin team and maybe has a win against a resurgent Clemson team and a decent Miami, Florida team and a really good UC Riverside team. And then they play UConn. I think we'd be having a different conversation. But it's because of that youth. And it's because they haven't shown us yet that we are talking about the cream of the crop here with UConn. And I'm just not feeling like there's a way that this ends up being close yet. So
I'm not thrilled that Wisconsin plays BYU right after this in a neutral site game in Salt Lake City.
Right. Not neutral site, by the way, but yeah.
Wisconsin travels really well, but I mean,
they do.
I mean,
that's tough.
No one goes to Utah like for no reason.
Correct. Correct.
So I dislike the placement of that because I think this BYU team is going to be fighting mad when they're
going to be mad,
embarrassed by UConn on the national stage. So I'm not thrilled for Wisconsin BYU, but I think a loss is better for Wisconsin than a BYU win because if they beat UConn, they're gonna have God complex, and I don't like that either. So. Yeah, we talked about like how BYU can win this game. They're very talented. They're deeper. It could happen. I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, agreed. So I said 15-17. You said 17. I think both of our picks are UConn here. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. That's at 5 p.m. tonight, Arizona time, right? So that's
and we're never wrong. It's a 7 o'clock primetime game.
Yeah, we're never. I mean, I'm 1-1 on the season for game of the week. Just letting you know. So I'm already wrong once. I got the Arizona one.
I've been very wrong twice. So
are you 0-2? Are you 0-2? Shit.
Oh
okay.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, 1-2 after tonight, right? I'm gonna go 2-1. We should track that somewhere. Have like a little board.
We should.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can turn it around. Then we'll start tracking it.
Yeah. Fair. Watch this one.
The rest of the weekend's kind of dull. Houston, Auburn tomorrow. You know how we feel about Auburn.
Yeah.
And then the week sets up. You know, we've talked about some of these bigger games. Pouring into the week. Wednesday's obviously got a big one. Michigan State, Kentucky on Tuesday. There's some games out here. Obviously, we're going to continue picking game of the week that's on a Saturday so we can talk you guys like into your day of basketball.
Absolutely.
We did go a little long today, so I can't tell you
Apologies.
about football slate. Oh, no, I mean, it's all good. But and then UConn plays Arizona on Wednesday. So it's a good week of basketball. There's a lot going on. You'll see more movement in our rankings, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
For next week's show. Justin, was there anything else you wanted to hit on? Any games you wanted to call out? Any last-minute teams?
Yeah, games to call out. Obviously, I think Duke will beat Kansas by 100. Kentucky, Michigan State on Tuesday. Keep your eye on that one. That one should be a lot of fun. Creighton, North Dakota. Creighton is really bad. North Dakota definitely has a chance to upset them. Just keep an eye on that. Last one is I got a sneaky player of the year candidate that I want you guys to keep your eye on. Ilyas Kamardine on the Ole Miss Runnin' Rebels. 16 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds on 60% from the field and 50% from 3 in 30 minutes. That is insane, to say the least. And they're playing teams like Memphis. So keep your eye on him. I don't know what his player of the year odds are. Obviously, it's Braden Smith to lose right now because the guy's out of his mind. Watch out for Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is going to be a fun team to watch, well-balanced. A lot of people play double-digit minutes. Keep your eye on Ole Miss, and especially Ilyas Kamardine. I think he's going to be a surprise for us when we get to the SEC.
God, these wooden award odds are stupid.
I know they are.
Yeah, if you can find them listed somewhere, it's probably real good money.
Keep an eye on them.
You gotta get through a whole bunch of boozers.
Yep. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Cool.
All right. Game of the week, UConn, BYU. Let us know in the comments which side
Please.
you are on. Doesn't have to be fancy with the line and the spread and the point total, but feel free to drop a score prediction so that we're not the only ones who are wrong when things don't go the way we're expecting them. We will be back same time next Saturday. Let us know if that's working for you. It's working for us, but
yeah, it is.
If we could get some more like hot games early so we could take you right into it, that'd be fun. But no, we can't look a gift horse in the mouth on a massive game of the week like this one. So had to bring you guys this instead of the School of the Blind and the Little Sisters of the Poor at 10 a.m. Just not as much fun to talk about, but we won't rule it out.
This has been fun. And Chainlink, please. We're sponsored, and we got a beautiful outcropping. It's up on the right-hand corner.
Up on Chainlink. Make your picks. Justin doesn't.
I'm like 5-0 this month. What do you mean? Now, granted, I'm sorry. I'm 5-1. Yeah, I need to do a little bit better job picking my picks. But go and pick on there and put it in the comments. Like I said last week, whoever comments the most game of the week picks correctly on our YouTube page, Rick is.
This has been Dead Ball Dancing.
Rick is going to put golf on Chainlink. That's the end of my spiel for today. So,
not happening. This has been Dead Ball Dancing. For Justin, I'm Rick. You guys have a great week. Enjoy the basketball. I'll see you same time, same place. Like, follow, subscribe, comment.
Please.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Peace, y'all.
Peace out.